I'd like to thank everybody for joining. A little bit about my background. I grew up in Long Island, New York, and I worked for a roofing company, commercial roofing company, through high school and college. And then I was offered a position by that company to open a branch in Atlanta, Georgia in 1979. They moved me to Fort Lauderdale in 1982 and worked there for about a year and a half, and then started my own company with a small loan from my dad, a 15,001 pickup truck. And today we're in 7 different locations around the state, about 550 employees. 6 of the 7 we own our buildings. Why is that important? Well, it just says that we're here to stay for the long term. You just met Kevin. He has a twin brother, Mike, both partners, 38, and then Clint's another partner I'll introduce next. But it's really important that you, when you select contractors, you look at their track record and how long they're going to be around. Learned early on that, a lot of roofs had air conditioning units on it. So we started our own HVAC division, air conditioning, in 1994. And now they're one of the largest in South Florida. We also do lightning protection, total re-roofing. And today you're going to learn about coatings. Roof asset management plans are great, that we have our own advanced access, which most of you, I think, customers know all about. Electric division, and obviously the solar, which is growing very fast. And I think we're going to get some more incentives going. Here's our locations, as I said: Fort Lauderdale, Jupiter, Sanford, Orlando, Tampa, Jacksonville, Fort Myers, and then Miami-Dade. And then next, before I get into turning it over to Clint and introducing him, I want to just speak for a couple minutes about coatings. I've been doing it ever since I started in high school and college. Matter of fact, I coated my dad's manufacturing plant in Long Island with a reflective aluminum coating on summer break, and it really works well and cools the building, extends the life, and it didn't hurt to make $2,000. I think it lasted me almost till I was a senior. But anyway, so I've been around coatings, and coatings is something that you really got to make sure, and you're going to learn about what a good candidate is. But when I look at Fox News and I see don't re-roof, it's silicone it, that company has one answer in their toolbox, and that's the coat. And it's funny because it used to say tropical asphalt, then it didn't say anything. And the latest one I saw this week is GE. So one of the things is make sure your contractor is giving you the right solution. There's many other solutions, and giving you the manufacturer's warranty. I know Tropical Well, he only warranties with a manufacturer's warranty 5% of his jobs. So you want a manufacturer's warranty, because if something goes wrong, it's going to be on you to go after a contractor. And so with that said, Clint came to us from Ohio close to 17 years ago, I believe, as a product manager, worked himself up to executive vice president, and he's now a partner and specializes in the solar business, as well as helping us with the re-roofing. So Clint, take it over.
Thanks, Rob. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming along with us today. Like Rob mentioned, there's a lot of great places for a coating, and there's a lot of places where coatings won't work. But we're going to talk a little bit today about budgeting for coatings, tools that you can use, what roofs are good candidates for coatings. We can't necessarily revive a roof that is completely flatlined and dead, but we can certainly extend roofs that are near the end of their lives and find places. What are the available options out there for coatings, the products that are out there, what their strengths are and how they're applied, and some tips and tricks on your coating projects, which Jason Carruth, our branch manager from Orlando, who's a lifetime roofer like most of us here, is going to talk a little bit about as well. To get started, we wanted to also let everybody know, and those of you that are local to South Florida certainly know about the expired Florida Power and Light rebate program for cool roofing. It was 45 cents a square foot at one point in time, plus the insulation rebate program. Those programs have run out of funding for Florida Power and Light, but if you're in other offices around the state, there very well may be some utility rebate programs that are out there for installing cool roofs, reflective roofs, and or upgrading your insulation packages. We really encourage you to reach out to us, ask about what incentives are available in your areas if they are available. There's also a website, the database of state renewable incentives. It's Desire USA. That's DSIRE USA.org. And you can sort by Florida and then sort by roofing incentives and kind of find what's out there. But we know OUC, Duke Energy, TECO, JEA, these places do have programs available still. So a little bit about the background of coatings. What are coatings good for? What can they do? They certainly can extend a roof life up to 20 years. And, we can really do custom ranges of warranty types or extension types based on what your needs are. You may have a need for a 5-year solution that says, just get me through this time. I'm going to bulldoze this building and build an addition on, or you may be looking for a long-term solution. So up to 20 years and really anything in between. Tax deductible in the first year of the application. This is treated like an operating expense, just like paying your electric bill, maintenance, any other sort of maintenance that is tax deductible in the first year of application. It's not a capital expense to the building. Can certainly lower energy costs. And obviously extend the warranties of your existing roofs or put in place a new warranty. One thing here that's kind of close to me is sustainability as well, and I think it's an underserved conversation that we do talk about. By effectively managing your roof through its life cycle and addressing it potentially with a coating before it dies, you're also diverting a significant amount of roofing waste out of landfills and out of the ecosystem and keeping it on your building. You're not buying a new insulation package, extending it for another 20 years. That could be a significant impact, not only financially to the operator, but there is a sustainability portion there as well. What else is the strengths? Obviously, it's less disruptive. If we don't have to have 20 men on the roof with roof cutters and significant operations for cranes and dumpsters, a lot less disruption. And then the expense portion of it, deferring a large roof replacement for 15 to 20 years. If you joined us at the last Lunch and Learn, you've seen what the value of getting a longer span out of your roof before having to incur that new roof replacement, hundreds of thousands of dollars for a lot of projects. High solar reflectance, keeping down that heat island effect, taking in less heat into your building. In Florida, we know we have an enormous amount of cooling days in our building that take a lot of energy. So it's a big benefit as well. Some of the challenges, like we said, not all roofs are candidates. Almost all roofs are candidates if we address it before it becomes critical. It's a lot like the health of your body or your car. If you keep up with it over time, we can make small adjustments and really do well. But we can't bring back roofs that are already dead. We can't bring back roofs that are saturated with water because they've been leaking for a significant amount of time. Those are all code-driven issues and performance-driven issues. They're really one and the same. Smell mitigation is one of those things. We have products with low VOCs. Some of the products have higher VOCs. So smell could be a concern, but typically I don't see that as a huge challenge. What are the building types? Really everything. We coat pre-engineered metal buildings. We coat flat roofs with modified TPO single plies. Even BURs, not so much with coatings, but with restoration products where we maybe are replacing base flashings and putting down a resaturant of asphalt products to create a restoration. So moving into the coating types and the coating applications, we kind of talked about not every coating is a fit for every roof, and they all have different performance strengths and weaknesses. And we kind of measure these by reflectivity, how well they reflect energy. And you see almost all of these coatings do very well to reflect energy. They're able to be made white. Tensile strength, ponding water, and then ultimately the investment and what you get for it. Acrylic coatings perform very well where we have significant slope, no sitting water. But in applications where there are any types of ponding water, that acrylic could just very much end up in the drain before the intended end of life would happen. Silicones, polyurethanes, PMMAs, on the other hand, all do very well under water and ponding water, but they carried varying levels of investment, and they also perform different tasks, and we're going to talk about that now. So acrylic coatings, and I just mentioned how these end up in the drain over time, especially if there's ponding water. These are water-based coatings, much like your water-based paints when you were a kid. You'd get your paintbrush wet and mix it up with the water, and the harder you mixed it, the more some would come loose. Acrylic roof coatings are no different. They're water-based, they cure by evaporation, but once they sit back underneath water again, they lose their bond to the roof and they simply wash down the drains. Now, if you have effective drainage, that cannot be an issue, but otherwise, it's a real problem. Where do we see a good use for acrylics? Metal roofing that has good slope, where you're looking to provide maybe some additional water protection at seams, and then maybe provide that reflectivity effect. So what are the strengths? They are the lowest initial cost. They are highly reflective, UV resistant. They go down fast and easy. But when we talk about the challenges, they don't weather well in the humid and wet environment of South Florida. They perform very poorly if there's any ponding water at all. And they are finicky for applications purposes in Florida as well, because they do need to be fully cured before rain. Otherwise, it's a disaster, to where the products is pretty much completely lost. So where applicable building types, we just talked about good drainage, no ponding, and where you're really looking for reflectivity more than waterproofing. Silicone coatings, very popular in the market, very difficult to get your hands on right now, and costs are going up. I think most of us know about the challenges in the supply chain that we have right now, and silicones have been dramatically affected, nearly double the price per unit for the material. So, but they do have a lot of performance strengths, why they're so competitive. A lot of that can be single coat application for your 10 and 15-year warranties. We're able to get those warranties with one single coat application, 1.5 to 2 gallons per square. What does that mean to you? A little less labor, a little less cost. They perform very well under ponding water. The silicone is moisture cured. What does that mean? As soon as it does hit humidity, it starts to cure out. Most silicones are north of 90% solid. That means when we put down a gallon of silicone on the roof, you actually have 0.9 gallons of silicone left when it's dry. Some of them are 99% solid. And so you get a lot of product left on the roof. And what does that mean? It just performs very well over time. It has a high elasticity. You can imagine pulling on a silicone pad. It flexes very well with expansion and contraction, does very well under ponding water. One of the issues, that we do see, they do tend to gather dirt and yellow over time, and they can puncture easily. But the gain that you do get is in that ponding water application, longevity over time. And if it is maintained, it can be recoated with silicone at its end of life. That could be 20 years from now, and be re-upped. Move on to polyurethanes. Polyurethanes, very traffic resistant. We talked about one of the weaknesses of silicone was its puncturability. Doesn't hold up well to excessive foot traffic. Polyurethanes and PMMAs, which we'll talk about next, are really on the other end of that spectrum. Highly durable to foot traffic, highly durable, enough to even so where they're put into parking garages, they're put into planters and waterproofing underneath paver systems. So polyurethanes really bring all the advantages of what we've talked about with acrylics and with silicones to this point. They perform well under standing water. They're highly durable. They have pretty good flexibility. It's you need to put in reinforcing where you're covering over expansion joints, but when you're putting it directly to a concrete deck, that expansion and contraction is not necessarily a huge issue. But the one thing is they do have a lot of smell with them. I don't know if that's listed here. Yeah, stronger odor compared to other coatings. They're aromatics and aliphatic coatings. And when they do release off, they tend to really put quite a bit of odor in the air, but they perform very well. PMMAs, relatively new. I've been saying that I think now for 10 years, so they're not that new to the market, but newer comparative to acrylics and silicones. PMMAs, it's a two-part catalyst resin with a catalyst that you flash inside of itself. And it's really doing well in the planter applications. And where we're seeing it for high performance roof systems, we're mixing PMMAs with modified roofing. C-Plast was one of the first manufacturers to do this, where you would put down a modified base sheet with a PMMA top coating. to provide the best of both worlds, where you have a multi-layered system, which is great for redundancy. You have the ability to put down the modified roof quickly and maybe get it dried in when you have to do other work on the building, and then come and put this PMMA coating on top of it. Once again, very durable, performs very well to foot traffic, can be either a waterproofing membrane or a roofing membrane. It doesn't have to be underneath a paver system or inside a planter. It can be exposed to UV. It can also be done by hand with limited amount of torching or kettle work or adhesive work. So once you cure it, you can put it on with a paintbrush. So areas with difficult flashings where you have low termination heights, we're able to take out traditional pitch pans or modified wall flashings and actually put in PMMA coatings and still get that same type of warranty and performance that you're looking for over the long haul. One of the challenges here is really the high cost of initial investment, but you gain a significant amount of performance for that cost. And there's a lot of applications, whether it's high-rise buildings, critical infrastructure, where you may want to look at that and consider whether or not the initial cost is more valuable than maybe the mobilization cost or the soft cost associated with loss of that facility. One coating, and this is new to the lineup, not new to the industry, but SEBS coatings, thermoplastic rubber coatings. We see this right now as a very strong performer as a substitute to our silicones. Has very similar performance characteristics to silicones, high tensile strength and reflectivity, performs well under ponding water, but it's a little more available in the marketplace than our silicone coatings are today. You're able to put this together in multiple layers to either, once again, 5 years to 20 years. We can really go all directions, and it performs very well. PVCs, metal, TPO, BUR. So SEBS is out there, and this is part of what Advanced has been doing now for this last year with the supply chain issues, is out there proactively getting ahead of our problems, right? Where silicone was a problem, we're out looking for new solutions. We're out buying ahead of the market to make sure we have materials to keep customers dry, and SEBS is filling a hole for us right now. So what does all that mean? I think when we look at this, we say, hey, we need to know where we put these products into the marketplace and what is the best application. Are we trying to just have roof reflectivity? Are we trying to cut our energy costs? Are we trying to prolong the life of a system, or do we actually need to put a new system in place? Or is it for moisture proofing, waterproofing? And every coating out there has an application, whether it's acrylics to PMMAs and SEBSs. It's really about what you're trying to achieve, whether that is a duration that you're trying to achieve it for, or it is a performance specification that you're trying to meet. And our team of professionals is certainly here to help navigate those waters beyond this presentation. With that, I want to turn it over to Jason Carruth. He came to us 2008, grew up in the roofing business. His dad was one of the early roofing contractors in Florida, going way back beyond my time. Jason came in as service estimator and was promoted to head of our service department, and ultimately took over our office in Orlando and has been doing an amazing job for the last decade. We see a lot of growth there, so welcome, Jason.
Hey, thanks, Clint. So I'm here to elaborate a little bit on the. It's kind of cute, that slide there wasn't in the rehearsal. It looks like I was probably meditating about what coating application to put on my last customer's roof or something there. But anyways, Jason Carruth, been with Advanced Roofing since 2008, and I'm just going to elaborate a little bit on the application methods of putting coatings down and the different types and what type of roof systems fit best. Some pictures here about what's going on. This is me and the Advanced Roofing Tar Peddlers. It's basically a group of people that get together. It's coming up in a few weeks to support multiple sclerosis on the MS 150 ride. We do it every year. It's part of one of the charitable events that we do at Advanced Roofing. I think this is year 17. Great event. So moving on there. Away from that picture for sure. Time for a poll here. So we're going to get everybody involved a little bit. And the poll question is, can all types of roofs be coated? True or false? Very simple. Or are you just here for the Nespresso machine, it looks like?
So it looks like we're 50-50 on the Nespresso and false. Very smart bunch we have today.
Okay. Shows the engagement though, at least they're reading. So really the answer is false, right? All roofs can't be coated. There is a little bit of due diligence that needs to be done to roof systems prior to applying any type of the coatings that Clint talked about. Starting off with slope roofs, not recommended to coat shingles or tile roofs. Basically, that is almost, I think it's actually against the Florida building code. Shingles and tile are a surfacing element to the roof system. By encapsulating those types of roofs in a coating, you're minimizing the venting, and you're also minimizing the way that the roof performs. So other things you want to look for is obviously the age of the roof. What kind of roof are we walking on? What are we going to apply the coating to? You got single ply roofs, metal roofs, BURs, and modifieds. And how long has the roof been installed? Trying to get that information and whether or not it's at the current life cycle of accepting a coating. We do moisture surveys, we do core cuts, we look at the existing condition of the different types of roofs, whether or not there's ponding waters in areas that can be addressed. There are some products that we can eliminate ponding water before applying a new coating over it. We can install, crickets with tapered insulation. There's also a product called Roof Slope, which is like a self-leveling product to fill in the bottom areas. And then one of the big things is it a commercial building that has chemical exposure? Could it be a restaurant where it has exhaust vents over the kitchens and things like that? Those types of things eat away at coatings very fast. So the answer is not every roof can be coated. The due diligence up front is the most important part before applying a roof coating. These three types of roof right here are probably the most applicable, being a single ply roof system, either a PVC, EPDM, or a TPO. Metal roofs are a great candidate for applying roof coatings. And we talk about the reflectivity of roof coatings. There's actually some products out there that you can paint metal roofs with a color, right? So if you want to come back with some type of acrylic or urethane or silicone roof and paint the roof a different color, that's an applicable, that can be applied as well. And modifieds are a big component for coatings. A lot of prep work needs to be done, verifying whether or not there's any blisters in the roof, whether or not there's any buckles, moisture, and I'll get on to that to the next one. So coatings are really considered a restoration. What we're doing is we're trying to utilize the existing roof system that you have and expand the life cycle to it. We refer in the industry sometimes as putting a sunscreen on your roof or adding additional layers to your roof by adding a coating. It's a surfacing element to where you're extending the existing life of your roof depending on the product, the thickness, and really the prep work that's done. So these are some pictures of before and after. The ones on the left is what an existing metal roof would look like. On metal roofs, you tend to have rust, which requires a rust inhibitor primer. This picture right here actually is of a translucent skylight that looks like it's lost its ability. You definitely do not want to coat over those. You basically are, those are what we call widow makers. Basically, you coat those, and you don't want to cover up the skylights. Therefore, if you have any foot traffic over the top of them, we'll be able to see them. The middle one you can see in that is a modified roof. That middle picture is a lot of prep work that goes into this specific application. Looks like they're stripping in the seams of all of that, those modified laps. And then single plies are a great application to enhance the thickness of the membrane, and depending on the application rates that are applied, whether or not it's a 5, a 10, a 15, or a 20-year system. So what's the cost of a coating system? Very, very wide range. This basically is derived from an acrylic, which Clint talked about, all the way to a PMMA, which is almost like the Cadillac of a coating. When you're looking at that's a box right there, anywhere between $3.50 to $11.50. There's a lot of variances that go on. It could be how much prep work is involved, whether or not we're doing a 2-year, a 5-year warranty, or whether or not we're doing a 20-year warranty. All of those different types require different thicknesses, different applications, different prep work. Therefore, you have the variance in cost from what we're saying here, from $3.50 a square foot up to $11.50 a square foot. And this model is based off of a 20,000 square foot application. In roofing terms, we call that 200 squares. 100 square feet is 1 square of roofing in our industry. So in a case study that we kind of put together as a model before, if you're going to re-roof the building with a new single ply or modified system, you're typically looking at anywhere between $12 and $25 a square foot on a total investment there between $250,000 and $500,000 on a 20,000 square foot roof. If the roof is a candidate for a coating, it's significantly less. And the slide over here shows basically you can get an additional 20 years or 15 years up to $150,000 investment for a coating application, depending on the product. So the application of a coating is basically 80% of it is the prep work of whether or not the roof can be coated and the surface preparation. So if we do inspections on your roof and you find out that it's ready to be coated, there's a lot of preparation that needs to be done. The first is an adhesion test, understanding whether or not the product that we're providing, it sticks to the existing roof system, whether it's a single ply of metal. And there's protocols that manufacturers have. Just real quick, basically you're doing an adhesion test utilizing the system that you're going to use, whether it requires the primer, the acrylic, the silicone, or the urethane. And what they do is they cut out a 1-inch by 6-inch polyurethane or a polyester strip of fabric, and it gets embedded into the system like you're going to be applying the coating. And typically we like that to sit for about 3 days or 72 hours in order for it to cure. And we come back and we pull on the tag end of the polyester fabric to verify that it's sticking to the existing system. So there's 2 ways that you can verify whether it passes. The first way is the protocol in the industry is that you're going to have 2 pounds of pressure for every linear feet. So you want to maintain 2 pounds of pressure against the polyester fabric, pulling it on it for 1 linear foot. If that happens, then it passes the test. The other one is what they call a cohesive failure. If the product itself starts separating from itself, then that means that it's passed immediately. So if the polyester fabric is set and it's pulling away from itself, then that means it's passed as well. So power washing roofs, getting the residual dirt off of the roof. Sometimes manufacturers have their own cleaners that they request, especially on black EPDM roofs or single plies. There's a cleaning product agent that they like you to utilize, lightly brush it into there and rinse it off. So that's the surface preparation is basically like when you get your car painted, they sandblast it, they get it down to bare metal, and then they apply the primer and they apply the paint to it. Roof systems are the same way. It's only as good as the preparation to the existing roof system itself. We talked a little bit about moisture surveys. A moisture survey is basically a requirement in the state of Florida to verify not only on coatings, but whenever you're doing a roof recover, a lot of times there's a recommendation. If you're doing a single ply roof over an existing roof, or you can do a recover with a modified, it's always recommended to do a moisture survey. There are a couple different types of moisture surveys. There's an infrared moisture survey, there's a nuclear moisture survey, and there's a capacitance moisture survey. Each of these methods is different for an infrared, obviously, is done with a camera, and it basically is identifies the heat transfer that comes back into the camera. It identifies the temperature differences in the existing roof system to understand whether or not there is any moisture. Nuclear tests and a capacitance test are done with some different types of tools called a Tramex or a Troxel meter. Basically, with electricity, it's shot into the roof system, and the reverb or the radar that comes back identifies whether or not there's any moisture. This right here on the right-hand side is a code from the Florida Building Code. It identifies that there's a 25% rule. The 25% rule means if their existing system or the existing roof system per section, now when I say per section, there could be a parapet wall that jumps over to another roof section or an expansion joint in the middle of the building. Those are considered roof sections. If 25% of the roof section is considered wet, then it's required to do a replacement. If it's under the 25% rule, then you can get the wet areas changed out if any are identified with the existing type of roof system. And typically those come at an additional cost to that $350 to $1,150. And then the coating could be applied from there on out. And I elaborated on the roof system, on the adhesion test there itself. So as you're putting the coating down, right, there's a couple different ways. You could either roll it, you could spray apply it. Spray applying roof systems, you know, in Florida, there's a lot of different heights, wind. It has to be the right application. Recommendation as far as millage thicknesses are done by these different types. You want to do it while you're installing the coating. Typically it comes in for instance, if you're going to get a 10 or a 15-year coating, you're going to probably have a base coat or a primer, and then an intermediate coat and a finish coat. Sometimes other manufacturers require just a primer and a finish coat. It all depends on the thickness of the millage. When I say mills, a mill in the coating industry is 39 mils equals 1 millimeter. So when you have typically a 20-year system runs anywhere between about 36 mils. And then the millage thickness goes down from there based off of the warranty that you're trying to establish. Gridding off the roof is identified when you're putting the application down. The coating is put down at 1.5 gallons per square. Back to the square feet, 100 square feet is 1 square. And we grid the roof off to make sure that the coating is coming out of the bucket and that amount is going into that area correctly. So we're meeting the thickness that the manufacturer is requiring. That third picture there is called a wet mill gauge. That's utilized while we're installing the roof system. When it's wet, it has little teeth on it that goes all the way around. There's numbers associated with the teeth, and what you do is you stick it in the coating, and wherever it touches is the thickness of the mills of what you're applying. Therefore, you know if you're doing it too heavy, too thin, and that is used by the guys on the roof while it's getting installed. The dry mill thicknesses can be done in either of the other pictures there. Typically, when the roof is cured, you cut a slit out of the existing coating and you measure it with either one of those to get the dry mill thickness coating, which is the finished cured thickness of the existing roof system. So for instance, if you're doing a 20-year coating, you're looking for 36 to 39 mils. That's typically about the thickness of a credit card at the end of the job. So Clint mentioned this a little bit before about the different solids that are in the different types of coatings, the acrylics, the urethanes, and the silicones. This is a little science method that we put together that if you pour water into a square or a 10-foot by 10-foot section, it's going to equal 16 mils thick. The solids that are added to the coatings is what makes up the thickness of the coating. So the average acrylic coating is anywhere between 50 and 60% solids. Urethanes are a lot more in between 75 and 80. And then silicones, like Clint mentioned, are in the high 90s, 95. So when you put the product down, each of these products has an elasticity or a tensile strength that goes into the coatings. And that is the ability for the material to expand and contract on the roof system. And it requires it allows the longevity of the product as well. The higher end products, the PMMAs and the silicones have the higher solids, where the acrylics have the less solids. So it takes more of the acrylics to get a thicker millage thickness than it would a silicone coating. Coating warranties, right? So back in the beginning, it all depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking to extend the life of the roof system before you knock the building down, and you're going to obviously look at something that's in the 2 to 5 year build, in the 2 to 5 year range. If you're looking for something to extend the life of the roof system and you're a long-time owner of the property, or you're looking to keep the building and not have the cost of a re-roof, the 20-year systems are available. And then there are also just material warranties that are available also. We offer a labor and material, which is a workmanship warranty, typically called a no dollar limit warranty. And those systems right there, in every application that I'm talking about from 2 to 20 years, is based off of the thickness that is applied, the preparation that's required, and the type of coating. Acrylic coatings are probably not a 20-year system. Silicone and PMMAs are probably going to be the only ones that, and urethanes could be the only ones that qualify for a 20-year coating. So providing information as far as the longevity, and then during the time frame of the warranties, it's required to maintain the roof as well. And that's what the first bullet point there is, the biannual maintenance to perform maintenance to the existing coated roof system. Therefore, we know it's performing. We always relay this back to the way that you pull your car off the parking lot. When you buy a new vehicle, you have to go change the oil at 3,000 or 5,000 miles. You have to rotate the tires every so often. You have to change the transmission fluid. Same thing with the roof system. You have to maintain it. You can't just finish the roof and walk away and come back in 20 years and go, well, I thought it was going to last 20 years. It doesn't work like that. So what's included in the inspection and the preventative maintenance? These are some bullet point checklists. Basically, every manufacturer, even when you're doing re-roofing product installations and coatings, they recommend that in their warranty that somebody is putting eyes on the roof and at least performing some type of visual inspection, preferably a maintenance inspection to the existing roof. So the main thing is the drainage. The first one there is remove debris out of the gutter system, away from the scuppers, away from the roof drain. Therefore, especially in Florida, when we have heavy rains, that the water gets off the roof without being blocked by debris, sand, granules, trees, limbs, whatever it may be in the gutter, in the downspouts. The biggest way a roof is going to perform is by making sure that the elements do not sit up on the roof. So if it can get the rain off and everything goes down the drain or the gutter system, it's going to perform at its best capacity at that point. And then we start identifying all the penetrations around the roof, gutter joints, coping cap joints, counter flashings, sheet metal penetrations. This picture here is identifying a HVAC condensing unit that's on a stand. Those penetrations that go on the roof are going to be where the problem areas are. If there's sealants, caulkings that fail from the UV of the sun, those are the things that you want to maintain and address. Typically, we like to do this inspection at least once a year. That's what manufacturers recommend. When you get into roof systems that are a little bit older, it might be recommended to do it twice a year. But all we're doing is walking the roof, performing tasks to all of these items and extending the life of the roof system. The column over here on the right, when you have a significant wind event, hurricane, rain, it's always good to get up there and identify whether there is any damage done, right? If we have a heavy wind event or a rain event, it might not necessarily be a named storm or a tropical storm, but it's good to get up there to make sure that nothing, AC panels off a door blew across the roof and put cuts in the roof. So that's one of the things you want to look for as well.